Welcome to Knit, Design, Edit, Sleep, Repeat with Lisa Conway and Denise Finley. Let's listen in and see what's happening, who's happening, and what's new in their world.
Today, Denise and I share big news about the podcast and where it's going as we move forward.
Hey, Denise.
Good afternoon now, Lisa here. How are you doing, sweetie?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been an interesting week. I have a very disappointed child because they didn't pass their driver's test.
Ooh, well, tell her that's why they have second chances.
She gets to redo next Tuesdays or next Fridays. She had to wait 1 week.
Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah.
So Daddy is taking time off of work and he's going to take her next week because I can't be there because I'm going to be out of town.
I feel sorry for her.
Yeah.
Bless her heart.
Bless her heart. She was totally crushed. So I let her spend the night at Aaron's last night.
Yeah. Well, you're a good mom.
Yeah. So Denise, there's a lot happening in both of our lives right now.
Yeah.
I'm probably headed for a pretty major surgery here in the near future. I'll know that on next week.
Good.
And you have a lot going on that is going to make some changes to the podcast. And I'd like you to share with our listeners what is happening in your neck of the woods.
Okay. Exhibition A. No. First of all, one of the things that Lisa and I had talked about at the beginning of this endeavor, this podcast adventure that we've been on, is using it as a tool to get the word out about what we were doing in our lives. And one of those things for me, I am an author. And I have always been an independent author on Amazon. I left Amazon just a short time ago, and I am going to become truly independent, meaning I will have my own website, my own merchandise, and my own shopping cart, thing. The long story behind that, which I will just leave it there. It's been very, very informative, educational, stressful. I just this morning registered my domain names. I took 3 of them. It as far as .com, .net, .org, but it's DG Finley, which is my author name. And I have lots of templates to choose from in Squarespace. So I will be available there after July 1st. Legally, I cannot sell my own books after you leave that organization until 90 days has passed. So after July 1st, my books will be available. Speaking of my books, I have written a series of 6 books currently. 4 are completed, 2 are on the whiteboard, and there's one kind of standalone that's going to be out there. So my husband calls it my 7-book trilogy as a nod to Douglas Adams. And we are going to start with those. I have another series called What Just Happened. I have several other on the boards, so to speak. I have several first chapters done, several first books done, but I like to release my books in series because that's how I like to read them. My first series is called Modern Fairy Tale. Book 1 is Arkansas Adventure. Book 2 is Michigan Magic. Book 3 is Texas Transformation. And book 4 is, what is book 4? Anyway, it's Modern Fairy Tale, Flint Finale, episode 1, 2, and 3. That's what happens when you get fancy with your names. So basically,
too many books to remember.
I know, right? What it is a story of the love story that has developed between myself and my husband over the past 45 years. We have been really known each other since 7th grade in junior high school. And when I finally moved back to Michigan in 2013 to now marry him and be with him for the rest of my life, I had several friends that said, that is just like that's like a modern fairy tale. That's just like a romance. That's just so sweet. You should write books about that. And I was like, well, I wanted Randy to write them because he had already started a series, sort of very loosely autobiography on him. And I'm included in there, of course. So it was just one of those things that was an aha moment. And I'm like, well, I can do this. I went to college. I was a really big, English was one of my majors. So I thought I could do this. So that's what's going on in my life right now. That's the easy part. I know a lot of people think I'm crazy when I say writing a book is the easy part, but it is. Because when you're independent, you do everything. You market, you publish, you print, you everything. It's just overwhelming when you stop and think about it. I'm going to have to line up shops that are going to carry my books, and I'm going to have to line up book tours and book signings and releases and all this stuff that if you have a lot of money, you just pay someone else to do. And I don't have that right now. So you have to start somewhere, right?
Right. And that means for our podcast that you are having to step back a little bit because
yes,
all of the back of the
house?
Backstage stuff, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Boy, back of the scenes, backstage stuff that Denise was helping me with, she just doesn't have time for anymore because, building a website, figuring out how to print your books, figuring out how to market your books, doing all of the merchandise creation, that's more than a full-time job. That is about 3 full-time jobs.
It's actually about 7. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Crazy.
then there's the writing and editing of the books on top of it all. So for our listeners, this means that Denise is stepping back. And as a result, we have found an absolutely phenomenal new partner.
Yay.
And so I want to introduce you all to Tiffany because already Tiffany has changed my life. She has made the process for this podcast so much easier. And it's, oh my gosh, I'm not spending every day thinking about it. I actually have time to work. So Tiffany, say hi and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, y'all. I'm Tiffany. My Instagram and business are Woot Crafts. I am a crochet and Tunisian crochet tech editor. Do chat moderation on the side to stay social, basically, and not, kind of fall down a rabbit hole of isolation because I have a problem with that working nights with my my insurance job is what I call it because it's the job that pays the bills and the job that provides the insurance. But yeah, that's about it. I live in Texas. My husband and our 2 dogs, and among my mom's side of the family, and yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Well, and I'm glad I could provide a process to make your life so much simpler with this, that you can actually, breathe.
It really has. She has organized me so well that I look at she put me in Trello, people. And let me tell you, it has changed my life. And I open the Trello a couple of times a week and say, okay, what's coming? What do I need to focus on? And that's all it takes for me to say, okay, on this day, I'm going to do this. And I don't have to worry about the podcast for the next 5 days. It really is lovely. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now you live and work in Texas, and your side hustle right now is tech editing for crochet.
Correct.
How long have you been doing that?
The tech editing I've been doing just about 1.5 years. October unofficially 2 years. Officially will be October will be 2 years I had some friends who were very nice to let me practice on their stuff and, kind of get my bearings and figure out what I was doing there. They had a great bunch of testers that would catch what I was missing in the early days. So I say unofficially because, I of course had the big official, here I am, here's what I'm doing thing in October of that year. So, and it's funny because mine happened during the pandemic, but it wasn't because of the pandemic. It was just the timing of how everything fell for me. So, because I
I
am
hear
one
you.
that my job, I'm essential to my job. So my life never really, fortunately or unfortunately, my life never really changed about the pandemic. So mine was just timing for the pandemic, not because of the pandemic. So, and Denise, listening to you to explain why you're taking a step back just sounds like a whole lot of stuff. And I am sending you all of the good vibes and all of the things that you're going to need for this, because that's going to be a lot, girlfriend.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm trying to learn how to use a Cricut machine now to make book bags, t-shirts, hats, and cups. So
I've heard that's quite addictive.
yeah, I don't know why. I haven't figured it out yet. But
Once you get the flow and you start making all your own things, I've heard it's a very addictive hobby that everybody loves enjoying.
well, that'll be my merch. So
Yeah.
just to start with, book bags sounded pretty good for an author with books.
I mean, look, I like it, especially when you've got a 7 trilogy series.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, a 7-book trilogy.
There you
That's
go.
a big
7-book
big
trilogy.
job. A big job. So I know Denise has a few questions for Tiffany.
I certainly do, since I'm not as familiar with Tiffany as Lisa is, but I love to get to know her. I think that a lot of our listeners might be interested in this question because we've heard some different answers across the board. How long have you been crocheting?
So my mom taught me when I was a kid. I think a lot of us ended up with that story, either mom or grandma or somebody, a maternal figure teaching us when we were kids, and then we, lose focus as kids. When I was in college, I distinctly remember we went to my godparents' house for Thanksgiving one year. We were at Hobby Lobby, and for whatever reason, I just decided I want to crochet a blanket. So told mom, hey, let's go find stuff because I want to crochet. And she was like, okay, cool, let's go. We ran over to the yarn aisle, and not only did I decide that I wanted to crochet a blanket for my very first project, I ended up deciding I was going to do a double-stranded worsted weight blanket as my very first crochet project.
Wow, you're ambitious.
You can imagine how far it made it, which was all of about 16 inches, I think, tall. And yeah, it didn't make it very far. I think it's still somewhere in the stash somewhere, but because I was going to do it out of my college colors. But yeah, put it down for a couple more years, and then I think I finally picked it back up probably about 7 or 8 years ago, full time again. And then when I moved out to Texas, I ended up getting into testing. My mom had been knit testing for years and thought I would really enjoy it, and she wasn't wrong. I did. So I did testing for about 2 years, and then discovered that my life and testing timelines don't always correlate. So, but I discovered in the testing that I really enjoyed helping the designers make their patterns better and looking for all of the details. And while I enjoy making, the part of the testing process I was enjoying was actually going through the pattern and looking for the details. So that's kind of how I ended up down the tech editing rabbit hole, was because one of the first designers I edited for, I finally gave in and left all of the notes that I found. And it was about a page and a half worth of notes. It was a lot of stuff. And she begged me. She's like, please be a tester for me forever. And I was like, really? And she's like, I loved the notes. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. She will tell you to this day, and she will not be lying, that I have not completed a test since then for her, but I have edited every one of her patterns since then. So And I love her for it. And she's an amazing creature because she's the one who put me down the tech editing rabbit hole. So, because of her, I
Very.
was like, well, can this be a thing? And I discovered it is indeed a thing.
And I can so totally relate to the testing and the timelines. That is the one reason I have never done a test knit, because I just don't see myself completing things in the right amount of time. And that's not fair to the person you're testing for.
Mm-hmm. It ended up causing me a lot of stress. And I finally was just like, you know what? It's not worth it. This is supposed to be fun. So I stopped testing and began tech editing. And again, that's part of why I offer the chat moderation, is because I love the camaraderie in the chat. So by doing the chat moderation, I still get the fun of the chat and getting to see everybody's, yarn choices and colors and all the things. And, but I don't have to actually complete the project.
That was my
So,
favorite part of doing the grading job, because you're automatically included in that test process and that chat process.
mm-hmm.
We need to talk.
So while you two contemplate a future conversation, let me ask another question.
Yes, please.
What
keep going.
types? Yes. What types of crochet do you actually enjoy the most? Do you have a favorite type or stitch? Or talk to us about that.
As far as type, I've gotten to the point here recently, I've enjoyed expanding my wardrobe with garments. I was trying to make for everybody else, and it didn't really, there's only certain people who appreciate it, and I kind of gave up on that.
Or that are worthy. Yes, exactly.
Yes. Well, and I mean, that's the thing is, it's a two-part process. Who is worthy, and then who actually appreciates. And, I was determining people who were worthy, but they were not appreciating. So I finally was just like, all right, I'm going to finish my own wardrobe then. So I've gotten into garments here recently, and I've actually discovered I enjoy making my own garments to fit me. Imagine that. And because being a plus size girl, it's hard to find stuff that always fits. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to make the stuff that fits. So I make garments. As far as a stitch, probably the half double crochet is the actual basic stitch, but I love making cables. I love the look of cables. I love the flow of cables. Cables always make me stop. Cables always make me look.
Crocheted cables, I think, are fun. They are. Actually, for me, they're more fun than knit ones, because I don't like fussing with. Yeah. I don't like fussing with the
cable needle.
Thank you. Yeah. And I don't like doing it without a cable needle. So
yeah,
I go to crochet. It's just easier.
That I can see that. Like I that's one of those things that I haven't done knit cables yet, because I'm like, I'm going to lose the needle, and if I try and do it without a needle, I'm going to drop the stitches and make a mess, and I'm still not a very confident knitter. I'm still very much a baby knitter. So
learning to do cables without a cable needle was a big plus for me. A big plus.
Yeah. Well, and everybody has their own thing that grabs them, or that's easy for them, and
they do.
That I just didn't like the look of it. I might have been doing it wrong. I don't know, but I didn't like the look of it like I did with my hook. And the hook just like I said, that's fiddly. But the crochet cables, I love those. Those are so much fun.
The crochet cables are so pretty. So
love them to death. Yeah. So one more question before we let Lisa get into something really exciting that our listeners are going to love to hear. What do you usually sell in your Etsy shop?
So my Etsy shop, which is actually currently on vacation because I'm transitioning to my, you're not the only one diving down the website rabbit hole. I'm setting up my own website with a store. So my Etsy shop's currently on vacation for that. But I actually have printables. I have designer and tester printables specifically for those two things. And then I have calendar printables they're calendar/planner printables, because they're not really like, here's your time chart, fill in your time things. It's more of an open grid of, you can fill in your columns as you need them. So like, I have 4 different columns, and you each could have 4 different columns depending on what you have going on. And so that's what's in the store and is being transitioned to the website as we speak.
That sounds a little bit like the planner that I had that I always called my second brain. And
Yes,
I left on
very
an
much
airplane one time. Yeah. And I was panicked, literally panicked, and they found it. I was so grateful because I
would
used
have
to fly
cried.
back and forth from Florida to Michigan all the time and parts in between the southern states. And yeah, I almost cried, but that was the old Franklin planners. Remember those?
Yes. Yeah.
So that sounds like a good idea too. A little more high tech.
It's not quite based off of that, but yeah, I used an Erin Condren for a few years, and I used a couple of other, and I used a day timer and a Franklin planner, and I've used a lot of things over the years. And this was just my creative take on those kind of things. And,
But that's important, especially for us creative people. I think a creative take on something that was very standard and very enterprise or business oriented is an excellent way to do things. I'm excited.
There's color in them, and there's quotes in there on the bottom, and
Yay.
the quotes may or may not have a couple of curse words in them, so be warned. That is your warning.
Okay. Warning taken.
They sound very appropriate lately.
Some people don't have a palate for it, and some people do, and
and some people are married to tops. So
well, that's a thing. That is very much a thing. So
hear it every day.
Everybody
often, yes.
Everybody's got their own thing, and sometimes you just need that word to make the point.
Right? Yeah. I totally get it.
Sentence enhancers are a good thing. So
well, I did read somewhere where it said the intelligent people can do that. So there you go.
I've heard that. I've heard that as well. So
and for Tiffany to be creating planner pages and planner design plan pages and things like that seems completely appropriate to me, because what was the first thing she did for the podcast but create a method of scheduling things that made sense, right? So when you think about your printables and your planner pages, it's like, well, of course she makes good planner pages, because that's her she's got a strength there that just needs to come out.
I hope so.
Right?
I hope so. I've had them for a minute, but not too many people have indulged in them. But there are several options available, and there's Monday, Sunday, and full page and half page options. So there's a lot on there available.
I can't wait to see your website up and running so that I can actually dig into them. But explain a little bit more about the designer planner pages and how those function.
So they're not actually, so the designer and tester pages aren't actually planner pages. They're more tracking pages for testing, because that was something that talking to a few people, discovered that they needed some help with trying to figure out how to track things. You've got a garment, and if you've got anywhere between 1 and 5 people per size, that's a lot of people, depending on how far your size range runs. And Instagram's got a cap of 30 people in a chat. And if you or a moderator under there, that's 28 people you've got to track. So the designer pages are meant to track each person and their answers to whatever you put in your feedback form for your patterns. So what yarn did they use? What size hook did they use? How much yarn did they use? What pattern is it? What's their contact information? Conversely, the testing paperwork is similar, but it's for each tester for each project. So you put the project name, tested this shawl for Denise, and then I tested this shirt for Lisa. And you can track what hook you were using for each one, and your yarn, and what errors did you find, and when is it due? And
I need that in my own personal life, because I have so many projects everywhere, and I usually write it down at the top of whatever, like I'm row counting or whatever on a piece of paper. I usually write down like what size hook I'm using or what size needles, and every once in a while I forget, and you're like, oh, for Pete's sake, what do I do now?
Yeah.
But that sounds like a really good idea.
that sheet actually came from my own personal life from when I was testing, because I was doing the same thing. I was writing it down and I would lose it. And I was like,
Right?
where did I put it? I have no
Stickies don't
idea.
always stay stuck.
No, they really don't, do they, at all? And they get lost and you don't know where they went, and under the bed,
Exactly.
on the bottom of a shoe, in the back
Oh,
of the
yeah.
car.
The dog's
Yeah.
got it. The cat's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the cat pushed it under the sofa. Yep.
Mhm.
So that's how that was.
Brilliant.
After the dog turned it into a ball, the cat
Yeah. That's
Yes,
batted
yes,
it and it went under the.
that's
Yeah.
viable too. Yeah.
I think
But
they
that's
sound
how those
brilliant.
sheets were.
Mhm.
That's how those sheets were born. Was, I took the tester sheet and then tweaked it for the designers, and so yeah.
And
how.
when your Etsy shop was active, I ran across your questionnaire. Explain your questionnaire for us.
So the questionnaire is for the planner pages, because there is a total of, when everything is spelled out, there's 20 layouts, which can be very overwhelming when you're looking at all of the listings. There's 5 base layouts, and then each has a Sunday, Monday start, and then there's a full page, half page option. So that's 4 pages, there's 4 options right there for one layout, and then there's 5 total layouts. So the quiz is to help determine which of the 20 layouts would be best for each individual person. And it's like a 6-question quiz, I think I set up on Google, and it sends me an email of, hey, you've got a new response. And I figure out, I go through the questions and figure out which layout I think would be best for this particular person, and email them back a listing link, and say, this is what I think would work best for you. And we go from there.
Lovely. What a great service.
It's an excellent idea. I think it's brilliant, my dear. Brilliant.
Because
I appreciate
you're right.
that.
Looking at all the different options is mind-boggling sometimes, especially when you're looking at custom printables.
I got overwhelmed looking at my own shop, so that's why I created it, because I was like, if I'm overwhelmed and it's my shop, somebody else is going to get overwhelmed really quickly.
Yeah. I know, just looking at the regular Franklin planners versus Erin Condren versus, it was like, because I went through the process last fall of trying to find a new paper planner.
I remember when you did that, Lisa. I remember.
Oh my God. It was okay.
Yeah,
I manage my work life. I manage my home life. I manage homeschooling the last of my 3 kids. I've homeschooled all 3 of them. I successfully got 2 of them graduated. So I manage that. I manage all of the doctor's appointments and for 5 people. No, I take that back, because I really don't manage my husband's doctor's appointments. He tells me, oh, by the way, I have a doctor's appointment. So I don't do that. But for the other 4 of us, I manage all of that. So yeah, the digital planner is great. But I personally am of an age where if I don't write it down, I don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So these could be used digitally on an iPad for those that work better like that, or a tablet or whatever. Or they can be printed for those of us that have to write it down. Otherwise, we don't remember it. And that way we can go back and look at it and, take our notes or whatever. So
That's fantastic.
They are very flexible and very... I still use them to this day. I take them to Staples. I print off a quarter at a time, and I print off for my mom and I both, and go print them off a quarter at a time. And the nice part about these files is you get a year's worth. Like, it's expensive up front, but you get the whole year, and you can just reprint it as you need it. You reprint it every year, whether you print it at home or you take it to whatever big box print shop you use, and they can use their really nice paper and their color printer, and you get really rich colors off of it. And because that's my preferred method, is I have a home printer, but I take it to Staples because I like their color printing better.
Are they resizable? Can you print it in different sizes?
You can. If you're going to resize it, I would suggest getting the full page so that you can resize it appropriately, because the half page option is already sized for a half page.
Right.
So if you're going to resize, I would say get the full size version to resize appropriately.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That makes total sense to me. Well, I can't wait for you to get your website up and running so I can dig in and really take a look, because
what's your target date for that, Tiffany?
The target date is the end of the month. I've actually just gotten the domain. I've got most of the actual website itself done. I just have to get the actual shop itself done, because I've been building this off and on for the last year. This was my surgery project last year when I was out on recovery from my second surgery. So I got most of it done actually last year. I just have to get the actual shop done. So
right,
this is the kick in the pants that I need. So by the time this podcast episode releases, the shop will be done.
Okay. So for those of our listeners that are listening down the road, this episode airs May 3rd. And so by May 3rd of 2022, the shop should be ready and up and running.
And ready. Yep.
Love that. Wonderful. I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. So Denise, I think you have one more question for Tiffany.
Well, I would just like, even though it'll be in our show notes, which Lisa meticulously helps put on, and you have helped her put it on. I'm very, I heard all about that.
I'm sure you did.
You have no idea. Yes. She was like, do you know what she's doing right now? I'm like, no. But yeah. That kind of stuff, like I said, it took me how long to get in here? 20 minutes. So I'm not a tech person at all. I have the creative mind and I have great ideas. But the tech thing, I'm going to leave to you, baby. So
hey, I'll let you have the creative mind and the creative, you can have all the ideas and I'll be the one on the back end helping with all the tech stuff.
Cool. See, it takes
the tech stuff
village.
Is very, it really does. The tech stuff is very second nature for me. Uh-huh. And a girlfriend at work and I were having the conversation. She's very artistic, but not very creative. Whereas I'm very creative, where I'm more creative, but I am not artistic. So we had that whole conversation the other night. And sometimes my creativity even hits a wall. So yeah, you can have that.
To add on to that then, where can our listeners find you?
So I'm really active on Instagram. My handle is @wootcrafts.com. Or I'm sorry, @wootcrafts. WOOTCRAFTS. By the time this airs, the website will be live, and the website will be wootcrafts.com. I've got the domain for that and about 100 emails attached to it, so that's going to be fun. Emails always a good option. There is a newsletter in my Instagram feed, or my Instagram bio. I've got a newsletter link to get onto my newsletter site. I think that's really about it. I'm not on Facebook much, so I don't have a Facebook page.
I'm going to say now that I totally love your email address. It totally expresses how you treat business.
Yeah. Well, so the podcast stuff all goes to that particular, it goes to collaboration at Woot Crafts, and then I've got tech editing, and then I've got like all the different emails set up for all the different things. So it kind of compartmentalizes my life accordingly.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I do the same with so many of my things. I can't tell you how many email addresses I have now.
That's a thing. Especially once you get a domain and you can have unlimited emails, you get very creative very quickly.
Yeah.
That's my next step. Yeah, I hear you.
So all of the information will, in fact, be in the show notes as to where to reach Tiffany. I will also include information for Denise this time around, because she's changing all of her contact information. So Denise, don't let me forget to get that from you so that I can get it into the show notes.
Okay.
I'm so excited about this new venture for you, Denise. It's going to be so exciting.
It's exciting until you think about it. No.
And Denise isn't going away. She's still going to be part of the podcast. It's just the back end stuff that she just couldn't do anymore, that we needed more people. So I will also...
Can I stop you for a minute? I just want to thank you right now for understanding that. I want to thank Lisa publicly for understanding that it was time for me to do this. and allowing me the freedom to be able to step away and just be the sparkle coordinator, like I talked about at the beginning of this.
Yes,
I appreciate it very much.
I just love the fact that we're not losing her completely to this, because I still think that she's got so much to give. And I'm thrilled to say that our team not only grew to the three of us, we have Tiffany and Denise and I that will be recording. We also have help moderating our Facebook and Ravelry groups by Katie Luneman. And she goes in and she checks and makes sure that if there's a post with a question, that I am notified right away. So
Thank you,
I want to
Katie.
thank.
You're amazing.
Isn't she though?
She's amazing, and I appreciate everything she does.
And it's just a great collaboration between us, the four of us, and it has made my life much more relaxed. As I said at the beginning of this, I'm likely headed to surgery soon, so that may take me out of the picture for a little while. And so it might be Tiffany and Denise here doing the interviews and doing some of the episodes. So
the sparkle coordinator and I can hold this down. We got this.
I think, all right, I'm going to say it. Tiffany is our other sister.
Yep, for sure.
I don't know about all that.
She fits right in, people.
She's the baby.
This is a 30-minute podcast that has taken us over an hour to get done because of all the chatting we did up front.
But that's the fun part. No,
but that is the fun part. That's totally the fun part.
That's the fun part.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. And I look forward to every step in the future.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Come back next time when Denise, Tiffany, and I talk with Ruska Blankenvoort, Tunisian crochet designer from the Netherlands. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you listen, and join the conversation in our Ravelry or Facebook groups. For show notes or knit tech editing and related services, please visit my website at arcticedits.com. To inquire about crochet tech editing and other services Tiffany provides, please go to wootcrafts.com.